I've come to this university for the first time, but I've heard about this university even sitting in Delhi. And there is a particular thought in my own mind. Again, as someone who has seen the world, lived in 8 countries, traveled to more than maybe 100 countries, I want you all to appreciate that when we talk about any country, any nation rising, the one metric of judging a nation is the state of its universities. You cannot be a great nation if you don't have good universities or great universities. If you are saying India, Bharat is growing, it must be visible in the universities as well. That not just partly in new universities coming up, but partly in the quality of universities and partly in how we visualize universities. So the university more connected to the real economy, to the real society, more practical, if you would, more contemporary. I think that is one indicator of how the country is actually progressing. And I had heard about Charusat. I welcome the opportunity today to actually come and see a little bit of it for myself. And I want to tell the students that you should realize really how fortunate you are today to be in an institution like this and be part of really contemporary education, the kind of education which will actually define Viksit Bharat.
So my first question for the topic is that in last 50 years we have seen India's foreign policy evolving. What has changed in last 10 years, especially under the leadership of Prime Minister Modi?
Many things have changed. One, when we look at the world with a degree of confidence. Now you will say, what is new? It is new. Because in the past, we sometimes looked at the world with a degree of nervousness, with a degree of let us keep them far away. I don't know what would be their impact in our country. Mm-hmm. We built in a way mental walls between us and the world. So I think the attitude towards the world itself is the first fundamental change. The second, which is relevant in a way to our topic, we believe that the opportunities are more than the challenges. Net, the world is a positive place. The world today, can be engaged, it can be utilized, it can be leveraged, actually to make the progress of India grow faster. Third, the world actually can also benefit, when I say opportunities, one very obvious opportunity is a global workplace. That the talents of India today have an opportunity to go beyond India. The contribution of India has a possibility of going beyond our borders as well. So, when I look at the world as a landscape, I'm more positive. When I look at the world as a partner, I'm more optimistic. When I look really in terms of the resources of the world, technology, practices, I think there is a lot that can be offered. But along with that comes responsibility. So we are today the 5th largest economy. In a few years we will be the 3rd. We cannot behave and act the way we were when we were the 10th largest economy. So as you become a bigger player, I think there is also, you can say we are a bigger shareholder in the world. And it's important to contribute more, to step up when there are problems like during COVID, or if tomorrow there's a natural disaster at that time. So when there is a conflict, so I would say more expectations, more confidence, more contribution, more responsibilities.
Yeah. So along with these, also there must be a lot of challenges.
Yes.
So can you elaborate on challenges and how Prime Minister Modi government has tried to overcome them?
Well, let me give you some of the obvious challenges. Though I think people, when a challenge is behind you, we all forget it very quickly. Let's look at the last 5 years. Okay? What is the biggest event in our lives in the last 5 years? It was the COVID pandemic. Okay? We could have looked at COVID. In fact, I share with people, when COVID first started, there was a virtual meeting of the top 20 economies of the world, G20. And the meeting was to decide, was to say, look, we have this unprecedented situation. How can we address it together? And there was a briefing done of all the 20 leaders. Prime Minister Modi obviously was there for India. I was sitting behind him and listening. And at that time, I'm now talking of January of 2020. In January of 2020, it was the opinion of the key institutions, the World Bank, the IMF, that the country which would face the biggest problem in the COVID, the country about which the world was most worried, was India.
Mm-hmm.
And there was a reason why they were saying this. Their thinking was, India health system is poor, public health is very patchy, the infrastructure is not there, the defenses against vaccines were not there. Now, if you look in the course of the next 2 years, actually we not only dealt with the COVID, we responded to the COVID by ramping up our health infrastructure, and I'm happy to say that continues even today.
Yeah.
And then we ended up actually as a crucial supplier of vaccines to the entire world. So I give you that as an example where, and when we gave vaccines to almost 100 countries. Even today, it is now 3 years, 2.5 years since COVID is over. There are many countries in the world, when you go there and meet people, ordinary people, people in the airport, in the shops, in the hotels, they remember, for them, India is a country which helped them during COVID. So, to me, it's a very powerful example of what it is really, how you take a challenge and actually make it into you could say, achievement, a contribution. A second kind of challenge would be today natural disasters. That you will see, we just had an earthquake in Myanmar. Okay? We were the first or one of the first countries. We went in, our disaster rescue force was there in the same day. The earthquake happened late in the morning. By evening, we were there. Now, it doesn't happen by itself. It happens because you plan for, you create a force. You plan for how to respond. So, and it's not a one-off. If you look in the last 10 years, you had earthquake in Nepal, you had earthquake in Turkey, you had, cyclone in Myanmar, you had a mudslide in Sri Lanka, you had floods in Mozambique. So, wherever anything happens we had in Mauritius, a very big typhoon. So, this is a very good example today. Our bigger capabilities allow for us taking more responsibility. That is another kind of change. Sometimes the change can be in our own borders. or in our own periphery. A country like Sri Lanka, a neighbor like Sri Lanka, for various reasons, their economy totally collapsed. Okay. Now, to see a country which is a middle income country actually not having the ability to pay for petrol, to pay for food, the kind of agitation on the street, the government fell, but the country was collapsing. Yeah. And we stepped forward. Today, any Indian who goes to Sri Lanka, here's only praise for India. We are seen as a good neighbor. We are seen as a country which stepped forward to help them. I can give you more such examples. But look, again, when you say 10 years, at the end of the day, in any society, it can be a country, it can be a university. Leadership is key. A country grows when there is a leadership, when there is a system, when there is teamwork, when there is motivation. Same thing I can say for a university or for any other institution.
Thank you. So let us go to audience now. Those who are interested to ask questions, आप इंग्लिश में पूछ सकते हैं, हिंदी में पूछ सकते हैं, गुजराती में भी पूछ सकते हैं. So please raise your hand and there are microphones, volunteers with microphones who would come to you. Yeah, there is. Yeah.
Greetings, sir. My question to you is, how can India leverage groupings like BIMSTEC, ASEAN and BRICS to strengthen its global standing in the shifting world of tariff wars and shifting diplomatic alliances in US, as well as the ongoing conflicts in Europe as well as Middle East? Thank you.
One at a time? Huh? Thank you. A big country like India, we will have many interests, we will have many partners, we will have many friends. Now, the world is a very competitive place. So, what will happen is people try to restrict our choices, restrict our options. It is natural. That is the way the world is. What we are trying to do today is to ensure that our partners, our options, our choices are as broad as possible. So, you mentioned BIMSTEC. You also mentioned BRICS. I can give you very different partners. There is a group called Quad with America, Australia and Japan. Okay. There is a gathering called Voice of Global South, which India convenes, which has almost 120 countries of the developing world. So, there are Indian Ocean groupings. There is a Colombo Security Conclave. So, what we are trying to do is to see how do we have the maximum number of platforms, maximum opportunities, maximum friends, because at the end of the day, we Indians must remember something. There are very few countries today which can say we are at least 5,000 years old. We are civilizational states. Very few are there today left, at least big ones. There may still be those who have continued but who are much smaller. So our rise, our position in the world is something very special. And a country like India, the tradition that we have, Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, of having a very open approach towards the world, we must maximize the number of partners and number of platforms and number of mechanisms. And we must also have the strength that we should do what is in our interest. And sometimes even if you are pushed by one country saying, be with us, don't be with them, we should have the ability to stand up for our interests and stand up for our rights and do what is best in our interest. And by doing, gatherings like BIMSTEC, which is on the Bay of Bengal, or on BRICS, which is largely a non-Western gathering, or on Quad, which is devoted to the Indo-Pacific, I think we are trying to do that.
Anyone else? Next question. Yes, please.
Hello, greetings, sir. So my question to you is, in your book, Why Bharat Matters, you mentioned strategic autonomy of India. So we have initiatives like Atmanirbhar Bharat. So how are we utilizing that in defense sectors for AI and UAV technologies while remaining globally competitive and collaborative as well?
You know, again, I relate it to this university. What is strategic autonomy? Strategic autonomy means that we have हमारी अपनी क्षमता है, अपना आत्मनिर्भरता है. So, to be strong in the world, we have to be capable at home. If we don't grow at home, we cannot have ambitions outside. It is not tenable. We discovered that in the 50s and 60s, where what was our ambition outside in the world was not matched by what was our capability at home. Today, what we are trying to do is by building, after all, what is power today? Power is technology. How do we, power is, in a way you can say, quality of life, the well-being of the people. So if we don't develop national strengths, deep strengths, if we don't create that broad capability in society from which technology flowers, because technology doesn't happen in a vacuum. Technology requires a certain mindset. You know, you can't have technology if you don't have manufacturing. You can't have technology if you don't have industry. You can't, in a country like India, have big aspirations and resources if you don't grow your agriculture, if you don't get full value out of services, if you don't keep up with the world. So we know today, I mean, every student knows today, next 10 years will be era of AI. Next 10 years will be era of EV, of space, of drones, of nanotechnology. If we have to do all of this, we have to build our institutions. We have to have the resources. We have to have young people. You know, I hear one word today in universities, which I never heard in my university: patents. We have to make this country patent conscious. We have to have applied education. We have to have people who come out of education system fit to work. This is really the challenge today before us. But I believe that today the country is focused on it, that, you know, it will take many institutions, right policies, great leadership motivation, the patriotism of our people to bring this all together. And it is then that we will have the Atmanirbharta to then be strategically autonomous. Because even today, there are countries in the world which says, oh, you want something, you must join me. We are too big to join anybody. We have to, you know, I cannot be under somebody else's shadow. We are the largest country in the world. We have to have that kind of big ambition and that big mindset, and that means most of all developing at home.